The spring morning in Portland, Oregon felt unusually cold for May. Sarah Mitchell stood in her small apartment in the Pearl District, surrounded by wedding invitations that needed to be mailed within the week. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air as rain tapped gently against the windows, a typical Portland soundtrack that usually brought her comfort. But today, her hands trembled as she held her phone. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our emotional narratives. She had just ended a call with her mother that lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. 4 minutes that shattered the image of the wedding day she had been dreaming about since childhood. "Sarah, your father and I have made our decision." Her mother Margaret's voice had been cold, calculated. "We will not be attending your wedding. We cannot, in good conscience, support this union with him." The word him was pronounced with such disdain that Sarah felt it like a physical blow. Him was David Chin, the man who had shown her what real love looked like. The man who stayed up with her during her panic attacks. The man who learned to cook her grandmother's recipes just to make her smile. The man her parents refused to accept simply because he didn't fit their narrow vision of who she should marry. Sarah walked to the window, watching the city wake up below. The Portland Saturday Market would be setting up soon in Old Town. Couples would be walking through Washington Park, stopping at the International Rose Test Garden. Normal people living normal lives, probably with families who supported them. Her phone buzzed. It was David. "Hey, love. Did you talk to them?" Sarah's throat tightened. She could hear the hope in his voice, the same hope he'd been carrying for months, believing that her parents would eventually come around. "David, She paused, wiping a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "They're not coming. They said they won't support us." The silence on the other end lasted only a moment before David spoke, his voice steady but tinged with sadness. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I know how much you wanted them there. This is my fault." "No," Sarah said firmly, surprising herself with the force of her own voice. "Don't you dare blame yourself. This is about their prejudice, their inability to see the incredible person you are. This is on them, not you." If this story is touching your heart, please give it a like and let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. We love hearing from our global community. ***. David Chen had moved to Portland 5 years ago from San Francisco to work as a software engineer at one of the city's growing tech companies. He met Sarah at a community garden in Southeast Portland, where both volunteered on weekends. She was a third-grade teacher at a public school in Northeast Portland, with a passion for helping underprivileged children learn to read. Their connection had been instant and profound. They bonded over their love of hiking in the Columbia River Gorge, their shared belief in social justice, and their similar sense of humor that found joy in the small, quirky moments of life. David introduced Sarah to dim sum at the best Chinese restaurants in Portland's tiny but vibrant Chinatown. Sarah took David to her favorite bookstores and taught him about the Pacific Northwest's natural beauty. But Sarah's parents, Margaret and Robert Mitchell, had different expectations. They came from old Portland money, the kind of family that had been in Oregon since the pioneer days. They lived in a mansion in the West Hills, belonged to the most exclusive country club, and had very specific ideas about who their only daughter should marry. When Sarah first told them about David, 6 months into their relationship, the reaction had been immediate and harsh. "A Chinese immigrant," her father had said, not even trying to hide his disgust. "Sarah, you come from a distinguished family. We have a reputation to uphold." "Dad, David was born in California. He's as American as I am," Sarah had protested. "You know what I mean," Robert had replied coldly. "This is not the life we raised you for. You should be with someone from our circle, someone who understands our values." Her mother had been subtler, but equally firm. "Darling, think about your future. Think about your children. Do you really want to complicate their lives? Mixed-race children have such difficulties. We're only thinking of your happiness." Please subscribe if you appreciate stories about courage and standing up for love against all odds. But Sarah knew the truth behind their polite concerns. It wasn't about her happiness or hypothetical future children. It was about their narrow worldview, their inability to accept that love doesn't recognize racial boundaries, their fear of what their social circle would think. For 2 years, she had tried to bridge the gap. She brought David to family dinners where her parents barely spoke to him. She organized casual meetings at coffee shops where her mother would make passive-aggressive comments. She sent them articles about interracial relationships, success stories, hoping to change their minds. Nothing worked. When David proposed to her 6 months ago, on a hiking trail near Multnomah Falls with Mount Hood visible in the distance, Sarah had cried tears of pure joy. But those tears became mixed with sadness when she realized she would have to choose between the man she loved and her parents' approval. Now, standing in her apartment with wedding invitations scattered around her, that choice had become crystallized into brutal clarity. Her phone rang again. This time it was her best friend, Jessica Martinez, who had known Sarah since college at Portland State University. "Sarah, I just heard from my mom who ran into your mom at the grocery store. Tell me it's not true. Tell me they're not really boycotting your wedding." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, it's true. They called this morning to officially decline the invitation I sent them 3 weeks ago. They waited 3 weeks to tell me no, Jessica. 3 weeks of letting me hope." "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry." Jessica's voice was thick with sympathy. "What are you going to do?" Sarah looked at the invitation in her hand. Simple, elegant cardstock with their names printed in beautiful calligraphy. "Sarah and Mitchell and David Wei Chen request the honor of your presence at their wedding ceremony." "I'm going to marry him," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I'm going to marry the man I love, with or without their blessing. I'm done waiting for them to accept reality. I'm done putting my life on hold for their approval." Drop a like if you support Sarah's decision to choose love over prejudice. Jessica was quiet for a moment before responding. "You know I'll be there, right? You, me, David, and everyone who actually loves you. We'll make it the most beautiful wedding Portland has ever seen." After hanging up, Sarah sat down at her small dining table and began addressing the invitations. Each envelope represented someone who had supported their relationship, who saw David for who he truly was, who believed in their love. Her hands moved mechanically, writing address after address, but her mind was elsewhere. She thought about her childhood in the West Hills mansion, the private schools her parents had sent her to, the cotillions and country club events she had been paraded through. She remembered being taught which fork to use at formal dinners, but never being taught how to think for herself. She remembered the subtle racism that permeated her parents' world, the way they would speak about their housekeepers and gardeners, the coded language they used to exclude anyone who wasn't like them. It was during college that Sarah's eyes had truly opened. Portland State University's urban campus had exposed her to diversity she had never experienced in her insulated childhood. She had friends from every background, every culture, every walk of life. She volunteered at homeless shelters and immigrant resource centers. She learned that the world her parents had carefully constructed for her was not only limited, but actively harmful. She had hoped they would grow, that exposure to David's kindness and integrity would crack their prejudice. She had been naive. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Coming over with Thai food from that place you love on Hawthorne. We'll get through this together." Sarah smiled through her tears. This was what love looked like. Not the conditional acceptance her parents offered, but the unwavering support David provided every single day. When David arrived 30 minutes later, rain dripping from his jacket and carrying bags of pad thai and spring rolls, Sarah fell into his arms. "I'm so sorry," she whispered into his shoulder. "You deserve better than this. You deserve a family that welcomes you." David pulled back and looked into her eyes, his own dark eyes filled with love and determination. "Sarah, I have a family that welcomes me. I have you. And in 2 weeks, we'll stand in front of everyone who matters and make our commitment official. Your parents are choosing to miss out on something beautiful, but that's their loss, not ours." Comment below if you think David is giving Sarah exactly the support she needs right now. We read every comment. ****. They sat together on her worn couch, eating Thai food and addressing the remaining invitations. David told her about his day at work, carefully avoiding the topic of the wedding for a moment to give her a mental break. But eventually they had to discuss the practical changes. "We'll need to reorganize the seating chart," Sarah said, pulling out her laptop. "Without my parents and their friends, we have about 15 fewer people. More room for people who actually want to celebrate with us," David replied pragmatically. "My parents are still flying in from San Francisco, right?" Sarah nodded. David's parents, Linda and James Chin, had been nothing but welcoming to Sarah from the moment they met her. They had embraced her into their family without hesitation, treating her like the daughter they never had alongside their two sons. The contrast between the two families couldn't have been more stark. "Your mom called me yesterday," Sarah admitted. "She wanted to make sure I was okay. She said she was sorry my parents were being so difficult." David smiled sadly. "She was pretty upset when I told her. She couldn't understand how parents could put social status above their child's happiness. I think it genuinely confused her." "Because your parents are good people," Sarah said simply. "They care about character, not appearances." As the evening wore on and the rain continued its steady drumbeat against the windows, Sarah felt something shift inside her. The grief was still there, the disappointment and hurt of her parents' rejection. But underneath it, something else was growing: determination, clarity, and a fierce protectiveness of the life she was building with David. Make sure to subscribe so you can see what happens next in Sarah's journey. That night, after David had gone back to his apartment in the Alberta Arts District, Sarah sat down and wrote 2 letters. The first was to her parents. "Mom and Dad, I received your message this morning about not attending my wedding. I want you to know that I understand your decision, even if I cannot respect it. You raised me to value integrity, honesty, and standing up for what I believe in. Ironically, that's exactly what I'm doing now, even though it means standing up against you. David is the kindest, most compassionate person I have ever known. He supports my dreams, challenges me to be better, and loves me unconditionally. I had hoped you could see these qualities in him, but your prejudice has blinded you to the wonderful person he is. I am marrying him in 2 weeks, with or without your presence. The door will always be open for you to be part of our lives, but only if you can treat David with the respect and love he deserves. I love you both, but I love myself and my future husband more than I fear your disapproval. Sarah." The second letter was to David. "My love. Today was hard, but it also made something crystal clear. You are my family now. You are my home. Thank you for being patient with me as I navigated my parents' resistance. Thank you for never asking me to choose, even though I know how much their rejection has hurt you. In 2 weeks, I will walk down that aisle toward you, and it will be the easiest, most joyful walk of my life. Forever yours, Sarah." She sealed both letters and placed them on her table. Tomorrow, she would mail the first one. The second, she would give to David on their wedding day. Sarah stood and walked back to the window. Portland city lights twinkled through the rain, each light representing lives being lived, choices being made, families being built. Somewhere out there were other people making difficult choices, standing up against opposition, choosing love over convention. She wasn't alone in this. And in 2 weeks, she would begin her married life with the man who made her believe that love really could conquer all. Like and share if Sarah's courage is inspiring you. And don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter, ***. Chapter 2, the wedding day. 2 weeks passed in a blur of final preparations, quiet anxiety, and unexpected support from places Sarah hadn't anticipated. The morning of the wedding, Sarah woke up in Jessica's apartment in the Selwood neighborhood. According to tradition, she and David had spent the night apart. The Portland sky was uncharacteristically clear, a brilliant blue that locals knew to appreciate because it could disappear by afternoon. Welcome back. If you're new here, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to follow Sarah's journey. ***. How are you feeling?" Jessica asked, bringing Sarah a cup of chamomile tea. Sarah sat up in bed, her stomach a knot of emotions. Nervous. Excited.
Sad. Happy.
Is it possible to feel everything at once? On your wedding day, when your parents have abandoned you? Yes, it's absolutely possible. Jessica said, sitting beside her. But Sarah, I need you to listen to me. Today is about you and David.
Not about them.
Not about what they're missing. Just about the two of you making a commitment to each other. Sarah nodded, sipping the tea. She had checked her phone obsessively all morning, some part of her still hoping for a message from her parents. A text saying they had changed their minds. A call saying they were sorry. Anything. There was nothing. Her phone did have dozens of messages from friends, from David's family who had flown in from San Francisco, from colleagues at the school where she taught. Everyone offering love, support, and excitement for the day ahead. The wedding was scheduled for 4 p.m. at a small, intimate venue in the Pearl District called The Cleaners, a beautifully renovated industrial space with exposed brick walls and large windows overlooking the city. Sarah and David had chosen it because it felt like them. Unpretentious, warm, filled with natural light, and in the heart of the Portland neighborhood they loved. As the morning progressed, Sarah's apartment filled with people. Her bridesmaids arrived, David's sister Amy flew in from Seattle, and even two of Sarah's favorite colleagues from school came by to help her get ready. Comment below which city or country you're watching from. We love our international viewers, ***. Maria Santos, one of Sarah's fellow third-grade teachers, helped her into her dress. It was simple but elegant, a cream-colored A-line gown with lace sleeves that Sarah had found at a vintage store in Hawthorne. She had wanted something with history, something that had witnessed other love stories. "You look absolutely beautiful," Maria said, tears forming in her eyes. "David is going to lose his mind when he sees you." Sarah turned to look at herself in the full-length mirror. The woman staring back at her looked confident, radiant, and ready. Her dark blonde hair was styled in loose waves, and she wore minimal makeup, letting her natural beauty shine through. Around her neck was a simple necklace David had given her on their first anniversary, a small silver compass with the inscription, "You are my true north." "I wish," Sarah started, then stopped herself. "You wish they were here," Jessica finished for her. "It's okay to wish that, Sarah. It's okay to be sad about it." A knock on the door interrupted the moment. Jessica opened it to reveal a delivery person holding a large bouquet of white roses and peonies. "Delivery for Sarah Mitchell," the young man said. Sarah's heart leaped. Could her parents have sent flowers? Could this be their way of offering an olive branch? Jessica took the bouquet and opened the card. Her face fell slightly before she handed it to Sarah. The card read, "To our beautiful daughter-in-law on her special day. We are so blessed to welcome you into our family. With all our love, Linda and James Chen." Sarah felt tears well up, though whether from gratitude or disappointment, she couldn't quite tell. David's parents had been so kind, so accepting. They had called her several times over the past 2 weeks, making sure she was okay, offering to help with any last-minute wedding details, and expressing their excitement about gaining a daughter. Give this video a like if you appreciate the love shown by David's parents. "They're good people," Sarah said, holding the flowers close. "I'm lucky to have them." "You are," Jessica agreed. "And they're lucky to have you." At 2 p.m., Sarah received a text from David. "I know we're not supposed to talk today, but I needed to tell you that I love you. I'm the luckiest man in Portland. See you at the altar, my love." Sarah smiled through fresh tears and typed back, "I love you more. See you soon, Mr. Chen." The next 2 hours passed in a strange combination of slow motion and rapid acceleration. Hair was adjusted, makeup was touched up, photos were taken. Sarah's bridesmaids, a group of 5 women who had supported her through everything, surrounded her with love and laughter. At 3:30 p.m., they loaded into 2 cars and drove the short distance to the Cleaners. Portland streets were busy with typical Saturday afternoon activity. Families walking to coffee shops, cyclists navigating the bike lanes, the city alive with energy. When they arrived at the venue, Sarah felt her breath catch. The space had been transformed into something magical. String lights hung from the exposed beams, creating a warm glow. The chairs were arranged in intimate rows, and an arch made of wild Oregon greenery and white flowers stood at the front, framing the space where she would make her vows. David's best man, his brother Michael, greeted them at the door. The groom is safely hidden away and is definitely not nervously pacing in the back room, Michael said with a grin. You look stunning, Sarah. He's going to cry. I've already warned him, but he's definitely going to cry. Don't forget to subscribe if you're emotionally invested in this story. Sarah laughed, feeling some of her nervous energy dissipate. The venue was filling with guests. She peeked around the corner and saw David's parents being seated in the front row. Linda Chen caught her eye and smiled warmly, placing her hand over her heart in a gesture of love. On the other side of the aisle, the front row remained empty. The seats reserved for her parents sat vacant, a physical representation of their absence. Jessica noticed Sarah staring at the empty chairs. Hey, she said gently. Look at all the people who are here. Look at how full this room is with people who love you both. Sarah turned her attention to the rest of the venue. Jessica was right. Nearly every seat was filled. Teachers from her school, David's colleagues from work, their friends from the hiking group they belonged to, neighbors from their apartment buildings, people they had met through community service projects. The room was packed with genuine love and support. At 3:55 p.m., the music started. Sarah's heart began to race. The ceremony coordinator, a kind woman named Patricia, gave her a gentle smile. Ready? Sarah nodded, gripping her bouquet. She had chosen to walk down the aisle alone. No father to give her away. No mother to adjust her dress one last time. This was her choice, her decision, her life. The doors opened, and she saw him. David stood at the altar in a perfectly fitted navy suit, his face illuminated by the late afternoon light streaming through the windows. And just as Michael had predicted, he was already crying. Comment if you're crying too. We sure are. Asterisk, asterisk. Sarah began her walk down the aisle. With each step, she felt stronger, more certain. The faces of their guests blurred around her. All she could see was David, his eyes locked on hers, his expression a mixture of joy, love, and awe. She had imagined this moment countless times, and in every version, her father had been walking beside her. But as she moved toward David alone, she realized something profound. She didn't need anyone to give her away. She was choosing this for herself. She was giving herself to David and receiving his heart in return, and that was more powerful than any tradition. When she reached the altar, David took her hands. His were trembling slightly. Hi, he whispered. Hi, she whispered back. Their officiant, a friend from college named Robert Kim who had gotten ordained specifically for this occasion, began the ceremony. We are gathered here today to witness the union of Sarah and David, two people who have shown us all what it means to choose love in the face of adversity, to stand together against opposition, and to build a life based on mutual respect, admiration, and deep affection. Sarah felt David squeeze her hands gently. She squeezed back. Robert continued, speaking about the nature of marriage, the importance of partnership, and the courage it takes to commit to another person. His words were beautiful, but Sarah found herself lost in David's eyes, in the reality of this moment. When it came time for the vows, David went first. Sarah, he began, his voice thick with emotion. 2 years ago, I met you in a community garden. You had dirt on your nose and were arguing passionately with another volunteer about the best way to grow tomatoes. I fell in love with you right then, though I didn't realize it yet. In the time since, you have shown me what real courage looks like. You have chosen our love even when it cost you greatly. You have stood beside me when it would have been easier to walk away. I promise to spend every day of our marriage being worthy of that choice. I promise to support your dreams, to challenge you when you need it, to comfort you always, and to love you with everything I have. You are my home, Sarah. Today and always. Hit that like button if these vows are touching your heart. Sarah took a deep breath, fighting back tears. It was her turn. David, you've taught me that love isn't about fitting into someone else's expectations. It's about two people seeing each other fully and choosing each other anyway. You see every part of me, the good and the difficult, and you love me not despite my flaws but as a complete person. You have shown me kindness I didn't know existed. You have been patient with me, supportive of me, and you have never asked me to be anything other than myself. I promise to honor that gift for the rest of our lives. I promise to be your partner, in every sense of the word. I promise to laugh with you, cry with you, grow with you, and build a life with you that reflects our values and our love.
You are my person, David.
Today and forever. There wasn't a dry eye in the venue. Even Michael, who had joked about crying, was openly weeping. The ring exchange was simple and meaningful. David slid a simple gold band onto Sarah's finger, and she did the same for him. These rings, purchased at a local Portland jeweler, represented their commitment, their choice, their future. By the power vested in me by the state of Oregon, Robert said with a broad smile, I now pronounce you married. David, you may kiss your bride. David pulled Sarah close and kissed her softly, then more deeply, as their guests erupted into applause and cheers. When they finally pulled apart, both were laughing through tears. We did it, David whispered. We did it, Sarah agreed. They turned to face their guests as husband and wife, and the room exploded with celebration. As they walked back down the aisle together, Sarah's eyes flickered to the empty front row seats one last time. The pain was there, sharp and real, but it was no longer overwhelming. She had David, she had their community, and she had herself. Subscribe to see what happens next in their story. The reception was held in the same space, with tables set up and a small dance floor cleared. Portland's food scene was represented beautifully, with catering from several of their favorite local restaurants. There was Thai food from Pok Pok, pizza from Ibiza Shoals, and desserts from Voodoo Donut because, as David said, you can't have a Portland wedding without Voodoo Donuts. The toasts began shortly after dinner. Jessica went first, sharing stories of Sarah's journey from the sheltered girl she met in college to the strong woman standing before them. Michael followed, telling embarrassing but loving stories about David growing up in San Francisco. Then Linda Chen stood up. David's mother was a petite woman with kind eyes and a warm presence. She raised her glass. Sarah, when David first told us about you, he couldn't stop smiling. Every phone call home was filled with stories about this incredible teacher who cared so deeply about her students, who loved hiking, who made him laugh. When we finally met you, we understood why. You are exactly the kind of person we hoped our son would find. You are kind, principled, and loving. We are so grateful to welcome you into our family. And to those who chose not to be here today, all I can say is that their absence is their loss. Sarah, you are our daughter now, and we love you. The room erupted in applause, and Sarah stood to embrace Linda, tears flowing freely now. Comment if Linda Chen is the mother-in-law everyone deserves. The evening continued with dancing, laughter, and celebration. Sarah and David's first dance was to Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley, a classic choice that felt right for them. As they swayed together, Sarah whispered in David's ear, Thank you for making this the most beautiful day of my life. Thank you for choosing me, David replied. Every day, thank you for choosing me. As the night wore on and the celebration continued, Sarah felt the last remnants of doubt fade away. She had made the right choice. She had married the right man. And she had done it on her terms, with integrity and courage. Around 10 p.m., as the party was winding down, Sarah stepped outside for a moment of air. The Portland night was cool and clear, the city lights beautiful against the dark sky. She heard the door open behind her and turned to see Jessica. Hiding from your own wedding? Jessica teased. Just taking it all in, Sarah replied. It was perfect, wasn't it? It really was, Jessica agreed. How are you feeling? Really? Sarah considered the question honestly. I'm sad they weren't here. I probably always will be.
But I'm also happy, Jess.
Really, truly happy. I married the love of my life today, surrounded by people who actually care about us. I think that's more than a lot of people get. Jessica hugged her friend tightly. You're incredibly brave, you know that? I don't feel brave, Sarah admitted. I just feel like I did what I had to do. That's exactly what bravery is, Jessica said. They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment before David appeared in the doorway. There you are, Mrs. Chen, he said with a smile. Ready to go? Our ridiculously extravagant one-night honeymoon at the Heathman Hotel awaits. Sarah laughed. They had decided to postpone a longer honeymoon until summer break, when she would have time off from teaching. For now, one night in downtown Portland's nicest hotel would be their celebration. "Let me say goodbye to everyone," Sarah said, taking David's hand. The goodbyes took another hour. Every guest wanted to wish them well, to hug them, to express their support. David's parents were the last to leave. "We're so proud of you both," James Chen said, shaking David's hand and then pulling him into a hug. "You did good, son." Linda hugged Sarah tightly. "Remember, you're always welcome at our home. You're family now. Really and truly." Make sure you're subscribed because the next chapter will reveal what happens 2 weeks after the wedding. Finally alone in the Uber heading to their hotel, Sarah laid her head on David's shoulder. "We're married," she said, still marveling at it. "We are," David confirmed, kissing the top of her head. "How does it feel?" "Right," Sarah said simply. "It feels right." That night, in their beautiful hotel room overlooking Portland's skyline, Sarah and David talked about their future. They discussed where they would live, whether they would stay in Portland or maybe eventually move to Seattle or San Francisco to be closer to David's family. They talked about children, careers, dreams, and goals. They talked until the early hours of the morning, building their life together with words and promises. As Sarah finally drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, her last thought was one of gratitude. Gratitude for David, for their friends, for the courage to follow her heart, and for the life they were beginning together. Outside, Portland slept under clear skies, the city holding within it countless stories of love, loss, courage, and hope. Sarah and David's story was just one among many, but it was theirs, and it was real, and it was beautiful. Hashtag Chapter 3. 2 weeks later. The morning started like any other Wednesday. Sarah was grading spelling tests at their small kitchen table, coffee cooling beside her, while David worked remotely from the corner desk they had squeezed into their apartment. They had been married for exactly 2 weeks, and the comfortable rhythm of married life had settled over them like a warm blanket. Welcome to the final chapter. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now. You won't want to miss how this story ends. ***. Sarah's phone rang around 10:30 a.m. It was a number she didn't recognize, but with a Portland area code. "Hello. Is this Sarah Chen?" a professional female voice asked. Sarah still felt a small thrill hearing her new last name. "Yes, this is she." "Mrs. Chen, this is Amanda Wilson from Providence Portland Medical Center. I'm calling about your father, Robert Mitchell. He was admitted to our emergency room this morning after suffering a serious heart attack. He's currently in surgery, but your mother is here and has been asking for you." The world seemed to stop. Sarah felt the phone nearly slip from her hand. What? When? Is he? He's in surgery right now. I can't provide more details over the phone, but you should come as soon as possible. Your mother is in the surgical waiting room on the 4th floor. Sarah ended the call and sat frozen, the spelling tests forgotten in front of her. David had turned around in his chair, immediately sensing something was wrong. "Sarah? What happened?" "My dad," she managed to say, her voice sounding strange and distant to her own ears. "He had a heart attack. He's in surgery. My mom is at the hospital." Like this video if you're shocked as we are by this turn of events. David was at her side instantly. "Okay, we need to go. Let me grab our things. Are you okay to drive, or should I call an Uber?" "I don't know," Sarah said honestly. Her mind was racing. Her father, who she hadn't spoken to in over a month. Her mother, who had refused to attend her wedding. They needed her now. After everything, they needed her. "I'll drive," David decided. "Come on, let's get you there." The drive to Providence Portland Medical Center in Northeast Portland should have taken 20 minutes, but David made it in 15, navigating the morning traffic with focused efficiency. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her mind a chaotic mix of worry, fear, and conflicting emotions. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered as they pulled into the hospital parking garage. David reached over and took her hand. Yes, you can. Whatever happens in there, whatever they say, you can handle it. And I'll be right beside you. Do you think they'll even want you there? Sarah asked, finally voicing the fear that had been growing since the phone call. David was quiet for a moment. I don't know. But you need support, and I'm your husband. If they ask me to leave, I'll respect that. But I'm going in with you. Comment if you think David is being incredibly supportive right now. They walked through the hospital's automatic doors hand in hand. The antiseptic smell, the hushed voices, the nervous energy of people waiting for news about their loved ones, it all felt surreal to Sarah. She approached the information desk and was directed to the fourth-floor surgical waiting room. The elevator ride up felt endless. Sarah's heart was pounding so loudly, she was sure David could hear it. When the elevator doors opened, they followed the signs down a hallway painted in calming blues and grays. The waiting room was around the corner, a medium-sized space with uncomfortable-looking chairs, outdated magazines, and a TV playing morning news on mute. And there, sitting alone in the corner, looking smaller and more fragile than Sarah had ever seen her, was Margaret Mitchell. Her mother looked up as they entered. Her face was blotchy from crying, her makeup smeared, her usually perfect hair disheveled. She wore what appeared to be yesterday's clothes, as if she had dressed in a hurry or hadn't changed at all. For a long moment, mother and daughter stared at each other across the waiting room. Then Margaret's eyes moved to David, standing slightly behind Sarah, and something complicated flickered across her face. Surprise, discomfort, and something else Sarah couldn't quite identify. Sarah, Margaret said, her voice hoarse. You came. Sarah moved forward, her conflicting emotions warring within her. Anger at the wedding boycott. Fear for her father. Sadness at the distance between them. But overriding it all was a basic human response to seeing her mother in distress. Of course I came, Sarah said, sitting in the chair next to her mother. What happened? How is Dad? Don't forget to subscribe to stay with us until the very end of this emotional journey. Margaret took a shaky breath. He collapsed this morning. We were having breakfast, arguing actually, and he grabbed his chest and fell. The ambulance,